This hard drive here was dropped some time ago, and every time it's plugged into power it beeps, and whenever it's plugged into a computer they does not pick up at all. This, at least from what I can tell, means that the read and write head is stuck over the disk or perhaps broken, but unfortunately I can't tell until I've actually opened it up. I sent this hard drive off to data recovery and they concluded that they could not recover anything off it, but I don't believe they even opened up the hard drive, so from what I can tell they just plugged it into a computer, which is probably the case in terms of insurance options for data recovery, unless they specifically say, hey yeah, we'll dismantle the hard drive and fix it completely. I'm not making this video as a guide on how to repair your hard drive, but more of something that you use as an assistance if you are going down the route of actually dismantling your hard drive to recover data off it. Although I do strongly stress that if you are doing this, then make sure that the data is not particularly important if you can't recover it, as unless you're actually trained in doing this, there is quite a high chance that you may just break the hard drive completely and therefore the data will not be recoverable at all. In this sort of case where the data is important, it is highly recommended for you to get professional help. So in terms of tools, you're going to be after 2 torque screwdrivers, which should be the star-shaped ones. In terms of size, I can't really say because it may depend on the hard drive, but for opening up at least, I'm going to be using a T6 screwdriver. So there are going to be 6 screws which you can actually see on the hard drive, and then there's also another one just under the sticker there. This may depend on your hard drive, but in this case there's 7 screws. Then they simply just open up the hard drive by unscrewing these. So it turns out that the 7 screws in fact are different size than the other screws, so I'm going to get another torque screwdriver. This one's slightly larger, so I'm guessing a T7 will be roughly correct. You can now just lift up the top of the lid, and the hard drive will then be exposed. And so we can now see the hard drive. If you look closer, you can actually see that the write and read head is in fact stuck over the disk, so my conclusion was in fact correct. And to simply undo that, we're going to be wanting to slowly drag the read and write head off the disk and also spin the disk, so the platter, in a anti-clockwise direction. So first off, of course, make sure you've got the correct screwdriver for that. This looks a bit smaller, but in fact it is a T6 size, so the same as the outer screws. So simply put the screwdriver into the torque screw on the disc and also push gently. There we go. So as you can now see that the read and write head is off the disc. I simply just push it with my finger. Make sure you do not touch the disc at all. Also something, if you haven't already, make sure you are in a dust-free environment. I should remember to add that in at the very beginning. But dust on a disc may not be a huge problem, but it's something that you definitely want to try and avoid, since that dust can corrupt data. There are filters on around the disk, so if you do happen to get some dust on there, it's not going to be too bad. Seeing that when the disk spins, all the dust will fly off, go into the filter, and be stuck. So now that that's all done, it's time to simply put the lid back onto the hard drive, and then put in the screws. Make sure that the 7th screw is the exact same one, but the other one shouldn't really matter where they go. So 7th screw first into the middle where it came out. and then continue with the other 6 screws around the rest of the hard drive. And there we go, all the screws are back in apart from one which I actually managed to lose. That shouldn't be a problem. Also, something to note that the screws, when you take them out, make sure you take sort of notes on how tight they are. Sometimes a hard drive, the screws will actually make a big difference in if it works or not. I haven't tightened these up as far as I could go, but let's just see and hope it works. Also, I'd like to point out again, do not do this unless the data on it is fine to lose. In this case, the hard drive was already counted as dead, and my brother who owns this hard drive actually is fine with not being able to recover anything from it because of the fact that it was classed as dead from actually data recovery. So yes, do not do this unless you're fine with losing data and breaking a hard drive if it wasn't already broken. So for the moment of truth, let's plug this back into the computer. Okay, so unfortunately the audio quality isn't going to be so good now because I'm using the built-in microphone on my camera. But let's see, plug the hard drive in, see if it beeps, and then see if the computer recognises it as a storage device. So data's in, and power. Okay, so the disk I have heard and it spins up, and there's now no longer the beeping, so let's now look on the computer and actually see if it's picking up the hard drive. Okay, so on my computer, you can see my main hard drive, then you see my SSHD, and my backup, and my other hard drive. In terms of other devices, there currently is none, but let's refresh the list. And unfortunately, there still appears to be no other storage devices. But I did hear the hard drive spin up, so perhaps a reboot is necessary for this. So yet again, sorry for the sort of bad quality audio, but I think the hard drive has been picked up just here. So if you see here, you've got my Blu-ray drive, my normal DVD drive, one of my backup hard drives, another one of my backup hard drives, my Kingston SSD, and my 1 terabyte SSHD. Then you have all of these for card readers, etc, etc, etc. But then you have this. This is a 500 gigabyte, which is the size of the hard drive by the looks of it. So I believe it has been picked up. Unfortunately, I can't boot into it despite there being an OS on there because it has Mac, and Mac does not work on my computer considering the components. But anyway, I'm going to boot into Windows again, and then I can actually see if it is the case. Okay, so we're now back into Windows, and here we can see the hard drive. So there's my SSD there, my hard drive there for 500 gigabytes, another hard drive which is my SSHD, which is 1 terabyte, another 500 gig hard drive, and finally another 500 gig hard drive. And therefore we've picked up one more hard drive in my system. So it does prove that hard drives aren't really broken all the time. Data recovery couldn't do anything. I think that's just because they were lazy. But with a bit of knowledge in terms of hard drives, you can actually fix them quite easily. And sure, I do not recommend to now use this hard drive. Despite it's being picked up, I know it's definitely scratched. I saw a bit of scratching once I moved the head away. So the hard drive is now damaged. It's being dropped, so I don't expect it to last a long time. So please do not use this hard drive as the main storage device, but now use it so you can go, okay, well I've got all this data on it, now let's clone that to another new hard drive, or an SSD, which is faster and far superior in my opinion. So like I've said at previous points in this video, do not do this unless you're willing to lose your data. It's not worth the risk. Simply, by doing this, I could have wiped the entire hard drive. I don't believe it's picked up any data that was previously on there, so I'm going to need to recover some data using some utilities on my computer, which is perfectly fine, and I'm willing to do that because this hard drive does not matter if it is broken or fixed. If you do need the data, send off to data recovery. It's going to be your very best option because they've got insurance, they've got the knowledge, and sometimes I have seen this around a bit. If they can't recover the data, then you don't pay anything, which means you don't pay the couple of £100 fee depending on where you are on the road and how much it costs. Do only ever do this if you have the expertise or you do not mind losing data. I stress this, and I'm not going to be held responsible for anybody who does this and loses their data.
Thank you for watching my video. If you thought it was helpful or liked it, then a like on this video would be very much appreciated. Or if you thought there are any problems, then leave a comment down in the description. I can try and change that for a future video. If you want to see more of my videos, then please subscribe to my channel where you'll receive all the latest updates.